We're back, baby.
I know. Just
Happy New Year.
feels like such a long time since we've done.
Hello and welcome to another zany episode of Nerdy West Coast Swing, the podcast with pixels where the anchors are out of this world and the points don't matter. We are here to help train your eyes so you can learn faster and dance better. I'm Cassie Winter.
I'm Alicia Marshall. If you're wondering who are we to be analyzing these pros, Cass and I both have extensive training and experience in both partnered and solo dancing. So tonight we're taking a look at the first place classic dance by Emeline and Jakub.
Their Roxanne routine from US Open 2024. And oh my God, my elder millennial heart when I was watching this on Global Dance. That's a whole different discussion because pixels, what are those?
Yeah.
When the first note came on, I like screamed. I was like, Roxanne!
Yeah. I've also done a routine to this song. So.
So we'll go ahead and throw a link up to the original video so you can go watch it at full speed with music and support Emeline's YouTube channel. And when you're done, we will get to analyzing. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Because we've done a few episodes on storytelling and choreography, and where it's not just phrasing, but also storytelling.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's amazing about this choreography and their performance of it is how it's really clear, like what part of the song we're in at any given time,
Yeah.
based on their energy levels, the space they're taking up in their movements and their patterns, whether they're traveling across the floor or not. Then the emotions they're portraying are coming from the movements that they're doing instead of the other way around. I was thinking about this because in the past we've talked about arbitrary emotion in performances. Like, why are you so sad? We don't know. You need to let us know why you're so sad so we can be sad with you or empathize or sympathize or something that's going on. And if you think about it in relationship to like acting, for example, it's much more difficult to convey accurate emotion when the actor is static, not moving and not doing anything. And that's why having a prop or having another person to interact with, or they're moving around for some way, shape, or form can contribute to the audience understanding what the character is feeling. So like if we have character Bob's feeling sad. If he's just standing there and he's just looking at you and he's like, that's one thing. But if character Bob is sad and he's trying to make himself his morning coffee, like just those two things, me saying it evokes an idea of what's going on, right? When doing choreography or performing choreography, understanding that the choreographed choices can contribute to the acting part of the performance. So, all that to say, I love this so much. So, that was my first praise with soapbox. Your turn.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that they do a really good job portraying the intensity of the song. But we don't start out like already way in it.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, the way that they start out, we can clearly see where we're at, which is, like this is a serious, more intense moment that we're starting out with, but then they are building off of that, which is really nice. I think their beginning really sets the tone well. And I really like the progression of the movements that they're doing, especially like with the weight supported things. There's not a ton initially necessarily, and they have some bigger ones um as the music kind of swells more, and then as we're getting some more hits in the music that we're hearing, that's when they're starting to incorporate more of that into it. And I think it's really well done.
Yeah, I really love because they're so unique in their in how they choreograph, but also in their social dancing or their spotlight dancing.
Mhm.
And there are just some really unique patterns and shapes and weight supports and rides that they put in that to this routine that are just so fun. And I'm really looking forward to breaking them down because when they're happening at speed, you're not necessarily paying too terribly much attention on first glance at how they're getting into a shape. You're like, wow, that was
Yeah,
so cool. We're going to get to see that. And then I also want to say, like, year after year, their swing technique continues to improve. And I think this first place is well deserved. And I am so excited for them.
agreed.
Okay, do the screen share. Doodle-doodle-doodle-doo.
So I really enjoy how they set this up at the beginning, right? Because if you've seen the original, like Moulin Rouge, like it's a very intense dance piece.
Mhm,
And I like that they're kind of starting off almost where it feels like they're not acknowledging each other initially because we're kind of moving around each other with backs to each other. As soon as the music is really starting, they're coming together and creating a really interesting shape right here. And I love that they're kind of starting off like placing the focus on like the two of them together, right? Because it could have been something that initially highlights one or the other with
mhm,
the first hit, but I like that it's something that they're not really addressing the audience, so it feels more like a moment kind of between the two of them.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I like the setup here.
And there's this moment like they're crashing together, right? And it kind of, I don't know how much they were purposely trying to follow like the actual love story in Moulin Rouge. If you haven't seen the film, the two main characters kind of just fall into each other's orbits and fall for each other like really quickly. And then the world and reality does not want them to be together, essentially. If we look at this from a storytelling lens, it's two individuals separate from each other, like Alicia was talking about, that then crash into each other. And there's also this moment where he like flicks off her right arm from his, being like, get off of me. So we're already getting this kind of character interaction and acting that is coming from the choreography instead of the other way around. Um, I really like that detail. So from the beginning until the first phrase change, their choreography really takes place in this back center stage area. And they're not traveling very far. It's very intimate. And it's not so much that it's like lower energy, but not a lot lower energy. But we do get to this point where the phrase change happens where their energy increases exponentially. And a lot of that is from the way Jakub is dancing into this really strong forward strike right here. And Emeline is letting him close the distance between them and extending her leg so they can continue traveling really quickly. And that is such a beautiful phrase change to carry us into the next part of the choreography.
I did want to add that I really like the tango type influences that they added in
Mhm.
because that is the original like dance. There's a lot of that influence in it.
Yeah. All right. So here's the sequence all the way through before we break it down piece by piece. The first thing that sticks out to me is it's a you go, I go kind of thing. So they're taking turns. We have an inside turn from closed position, followed by a leg over. So Jakub is placing Emmeline's right arm across the front of his waist, which is kind of naturally getting her right arm close to his legs. But I think no, she keeps it over top. So he's basically placing it where it's going to end up. And then she's reaching under with her left arm as he's kicking over with his left.
She's initially kind of using it like the grip that she has to slow herself down. Um, just so she's not like slamming her knees into the floor. And then it's more the way that she's kind of getting displaced with the arms because she's kind of tipping because of the way that he's moving.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not like a ton of like weight support this whole time. It's more kind of a little bit of weight support initially going to the ground, and then it's kind of just moving based on some contact. I wouldn't say there's too much actual weight support until they're like she's moving.
Mm-hmm.
But just kind of this like falling to the side, all of that, it's not going to be a ton of weight support necessarily.
Right. And especially like right here, she's helping slow him down because he's very much off of his standing foot here.
Mhm. If anything, when she's kind of going down to the floor, the weight that she has in her left arm is going to kind of stabilize him so that he can kind of tip over a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And the connection that she has with him is kind of helping him get a little bit of extra tilt while it's also pulling her over.
And the next thing I'm trying to divine is where all the momentum is coming from to basically yeet her across the floor and back around him to the other side of the slot. So, what I'm seeing is the first point of tension is actually her right arm on his right hip.
Mhm.
We can see how that arm gets extended first. And then, as soon as it's as extended as it can be, she starts traveling through space.
Yeah.
And then it looks like she's actively using that arm to pull a little bit to accelerate herself.
Hmm.
Let me
Well,
get that.
and also because she has some momentum already started by the tipping,
Mhm.
it's going to be a lot easier to kind of move into the rest of that.
Yeah. And then she's also getting assisted by this leg.
Hmm.
So there's a pull to her right side and a push from her left. I love his arm styling throughout this whole routine, like his commitment to it. Where were we? We were here. So not only is it arm styling, but it's functional to get his right hand to up under her left shoulder. And she is still, or she's shifting her right arm to wrap around his right thigh for more support.
Yeah, and the way that she's going into it is really helpful because he doesn't have a lot of like he doesn't have a lot of power just based on kind of him being stationary in this particular spot.
Hmm.
Uh, and just because he's not able to add any real momentum other than just the twisting of the upper body for him.
Hmm.
So the way that she's kind of initially kind of wrapping around his leg, but leaving her hips facing him until she then swings them around is kind of what's really helping create, because he doesn't have the positioning to do too terribly much other than give a little extra and support.
Yeah. She's very much initiating the
Hmm.
sweep essentially, and then he's
Yeah.
helping her follow through with it.
Yeah.
I would be so dizzy. Not that anybody cares, but holy cow, because she went from that sweep and then staying in a back bend, did kind of a Tatiana rollover and then into an even deeper back bend.
However, her head isn't doing like a ton of moving because it's the like the lower body that's doing a lot more.
I also love how this shape kind of foreshadows their ending pose. Because here he's in the more dominant position, whereas the final pose is her standing over him with her foot on his chest,
Yeah.
or her left arm on his right arm. She lets
Mhm.
go of his right leg with her right arm. He's reaching for her waist with his left to help facilitate her rolling over. She's being very careful not to punch him in the face,
Yep.
although he's acting like she punched him in the face. Wait. I love this. Oh, that's so beautiful. I did not catch that at speed. That is mwah. And he does the timing of him, like, reacting as if she punched him is fantastic. And while he's doing his, like, neck roll and around with his spine, she's kind of using her arms to finish getting onto her back on his thigh.
But like they're doing this not connected. Like they are, but it's not quite, it's not like hand-to-hand connection, right? It's more like chest to leg
Mhm.
connection. And she's kind of rotating herself because of the way that she's kind of punching through.
Yep. Like, he assists just, like, a little bit with his left hand on her
Mhm.
waist just to get her into the right position, and then lets her do the rest herself. And she's really seeking full contact with her back, so she's making contact with his hip and waist before she settles down onto his thigh. Alright, so again, with feeling, the whole sequence, now that we've broken down the whole thing. And that was another, phrase change. This ride is so cool. So the first thing I'm noticing is how they're setting up his left hand around her left bicep elbow,
Mhm.
and he's turning her from there, so he already has that point on her arm to support her through this ride.
Yeah. And he essentially is putting the hands both where they're going to stay before they really get into it because he has one hand on the waist and one hand
Yeah.
on the arm. And then he's almost just kind of like pulling her into it with the one hand and like um the other hand is kind of countering her lean.
Mhm. And his hand is both on the front of her ribs and the side, so that way it feels nice and stable for her.
Mhm.
So we haven't talked about rides in a long time, and I think that was the episode where your Zoom was really special. And I was just by myself.
Hi, Ben.
But the way rides work is like, so you have, because it ends up looking like a circle.
Mhm.
But what's happening is everyone's trying to escape the circle, but because they're tethered to it, it ends up going around.
Yep.
What Jakub is trying to do is escape the circle, but that ends up tethering her into the rotation. So that's actually how the side cross side footwork happens. Is the side is you trying to escape and you hit the length at which you can get. You can't get any further, and because you can't get any further, your other leg crosses in front.
Yeah, and this is like a unique uh way that they're doing it. also, just because of the placement of everything.
I also just really like how he's keeping his left elbow elevated to continue this line.
Mhm.
So it's almost like it's his hand,
Yeah,
but it's hers, but it's his.
yeah.
And it makes it looks like even here, it makes it look like a cohesive shape.
Mhm.
It makes it look even cooler.
Yeah, and just because of the way that they are, like, leaning into this, like, their feet are more intertwined than might normally be happening.
Yeah, like all three of their feet are here. Her left leg is in between his, and you can
Yeah.
see how much he is sitting back into the connection in order to
Mhm.
counter her.
Yeah, and there's some points where you can see that her foot is, like, back behind his.
Like right here.
Yeah. And again, that's just because of the lean that she's in, and that's just how they're having to kinda counter that.
Look, more rides.
Mhm. Very similar one. However, because of the first one is more of a, like, kinda her being pulled in a direction and, like, leaning out. This one is more like her kind of pushing away almost, instead of having a lean to one direction. And so their feet are in a different position than they were for the initial, or the one we looked at before,
Mhm,
um, where he was very much like intertwined, but instead of like this, where her foot is kind of really in between and almost behind his sometimes, they're getting to a position where she's just kind of in front of him. And like, yes, his feet are on the sides of hers, but there it's a different positioning because she's further in front,
mm,
because he's able to resist with both hands, her trying to push forward or
and they're
fall.
also doing less of a rotation,
Yeah.
so he doesn't have to stay as
Mhm.
close to her center with his feet because they're not going as far. They're stepping out of it pretty fast because she starts facing the back wall, essentially, and she starts coming out of it, like, before she even faces the back wall again. She's starting to step out of it,
Yeah.
and then they go right into not quite a ride, but it has that same kind of countering,
Mhm.
arced energy to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it just ends up they change it to more of a an angle
Mhm,
kind of partway through it, because she's rotating on a foot and then they're changing it. They're both kind of sitting down into it to change that momentum so that they can go more diagonal
mhm.
as opposed to this circular.
Ugh, the Tango Cross.
Mhm.
Yes.
I was actually just going to say the same thing. I really love how much of the tango influence they've added in,
Mhm,
because it's still like overall West Coast because
mhm.
of the connections and the patterns that they're using, but they're also adding in a few techniques here and there that are tango based. And that I think is even like Argentine.
Yeah. I think the basic is where the fellow crosses their left foot over their right, so they're doing it in the other direction, but it's still very obviously tango and not a West Coast swing move. And this is one of those little moments where they added character for him. Like he could have just kept holding on to her,
Mhm.
but he doesn't. He lets go with his hands and has this moment with outstretched arms and fingers.
Yeah. I mean, it adds another dynamic to it so
Yeah.
that there's something happening on the bottom and the top of the, especially because they're both doing this together. It's really
Mhm.
nice for there to be kind of two different things going on, one for each of them. Um, a lot of what's making this overall vibe come off as like that tango feel is the arm stylings and the hand stylings that they're doing. Um, where we're doing a lot of grabbing and reaching
Mhm. I
and
love
like
using.
powerful straight arms as well.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I love the intentionality of his exhale right here
Hmm.
and how it just melts in with the movement itself.
Yeah.
It's not out of place. It just adds to it.
I like that they do just kind of like a basic 1 foot turn
Mhm.
and then exit out of it in a more complicated manner.
Instead of making the turn itself the complicated thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, so we have right to right, left left. We have a loop, and then they untwist it. Oh, they let go of the hand right there after it face loops over her,
Hmm.
and then they switch back to here. Very sneaky. And
Yeah.
then this, sorry?
I said I really like the way that they the juxtaposition between the really simple 1 foot and then coming out with a lot of arm things.
Mhm. And then this was like the move of the open. So many people had this kind of pattern in their routine where one person was planked and the other person was driving them across the floor.
Been a popular
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah. But this one was unashamedly my favorite. Because it's also a really incredible acting moment. Like he's not trying to make it look pretty. He's looking like his heart has been shred into 1,000 pieces. So this is the home stretch of the routine. And like we've talked about on episodes before, it's we're at the highest intensity, the
Yeah.
highest expression of energy because this
Yeah.
routine resolves in a hard stop.
Hmm. I want to talk about that weight support because they go into it from a hook around, which a lot of times this is used to go hook one arm, hook two arm, and then come back to the front into a split.
Yeah.
But they're changing it. They're doing the initial hook, but they're keeping that connection there. And that's what she's dropping into. So it's actually a very safe drop because they establish the connection early and they don't release it or change it.
Mhm.
They're keeping the elbows together, basically.
Yeah, and instead of either of them using their hands, it's significantly more stable when the elbows are locked
Mhm.
into each other like that.
Yeah. And he's also supporting the second hand as well,
Mhm.
which looks to me like the the hooked arms are what is doing all of the weight support, and then the second hand, it's kind of what's getting her up and over that final uh, spot to get her into this like balanced position.
Yeah, because like while she's still off of her feet, it looks like it's more of a stability thing, but as soon as
Hmm.
this loses all of the power, this is getting compression in it.
Yeah, just to finish, so
Yeah,
it's not a ton,
transitioning to
but
here. Yeah. Like that's what the pros do in their weight supported moves is like there isn't a moment of nothing.
Yeah.
There
Or at least there should be.
connection. Yeah, there shouldn't be. Fortunately, that happens on the spotlight floor sometimes, and it's terrifying. That's where the whole room goes.
Mhm.
There was one particular move at Vancouver last weekend with Sean and Alyssa. I don't know how to describe it. I'll send you video.
I think I've seen it.
You see
I
it? She like kicks her feet, even though he's like also
yeah,
in the air.
yeah, he's kicking over her.
Yeah, I expected Elphaba to start singing at any second, defying gravity. It was bonkers. It was really cool. But I'm like, wow, I'm glad they're both okay.
Yeah, that could have gone wrong.
This little detail here, it feels just a little bit like a samba roll.
It does.
This is a tiny bit. And it makes me happy.
Also like that at the very end, we're kind of going back to where we started with that back-to-back rotation,
Ooh, good catch.
just slightly
Yeah,
different.
here. This right here is just like a really good example of contrast.
Mhm.
Because if they had gone from here really close to each other, straight to the ending pose, it wouldn't have been as impactful.
Yeah,
But instead, they have this moment of like extreme away
yeah,
tension before coming back together again, which adds emphasis.
yeah.
I don't know. Everything I say feels trite against this piece of art.
I love how he starts laughing. It's like a multiple emotion thing.
Yeah, you can't stay serious for too long after running it so well. So we obviously didn't break down the entire routine. But hopefully those were some of the things that everyone would enjoy breaking down in
The bigger
slow
moment.
mo. Yeah, I'm just I'm so happy for them because they deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should be back doing somewhat regular episodes now that holidays and everything are over. That was chaotic for me specifically.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
There was just everything everywhere. Everything everywhere all at once.
yeah, pretty much.
This
Uh,
Vancouver was a lot of fun. Shout out to all the fans that I met there. I'm always like weirded out that y'all know we exist, let alone care. So to fans who have become friends, thank you. So nice to meet you.
we have some guests lined up coming up soon.
Very
Some
excited.
fun ones. I don't know if we've announced. I think we've announced the next one we have
I
scheduled.
don't think so. I'm gonna say it. Marcus Smith will be
Yeah.
joining us in February. So excited for that.
Yep.
And then I think another one of the future episodes we're gonna do is very specifically what happens when in a basic. Because apparently on one of our recent episodes, we said something that may have broke people's brains about what happens when. I think it
Yeah.
was specifically the 6 into the 1.
Yeah.
Um, and then we got a couple of questions saying like, "Well, I thought it was this." And we're like, "Well, that's what it is in your first day. That's not what it is in actuality." So, we will be enlightening all of you at some point in the future.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be drawing a graph while we talk about it.
I feel like that's a popular explanatory example thing
Yeah.
for multiple graph things.
Yep. Yep. Thank you all for joining us again.
See you
Happy.
all next time. Happy New Year. I have a hard time watching it because I'm having flashbacks to the so we had chairs that we used,
Mhm.
props, and we were like dancing on them. And they were the like sketchy foldable kind.
Oh
And
no.
we were doing literal like tricks up over them. It was fun.
OSHA violation. Would you agree? That was so cute.
Do you mind? He loved putting the paw like right up here. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know. His paws are also quite cool. Do you mind? They're also quite cold because he's been outside in the snow.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you mind? Can you go be quiet, please? Can you go be quiet, please? Ow.